Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
When an innocent smile hides a fatal secret and betrayal becomes the catalyst for devastating events, are you ready to learn the truth that will turn everything upside down? Today's story with a similar plot. Have fun. Judge Robert Bussold pursed his lips angrily as Jeff Landry, his son-in-law, leaned back and smiled with satisfaction. Sitting opposite Jeff was Angel Jelly Landry, Jeff's daughter, whom Robert found disgusting and deviant. Next to the little red-haired harlot sat Arabelle Belly Hall, Jelly's friend. Times had changed, and not for the better, Mr. Dillon, Robert thought. There was a time when such relationships were so scandalous and so disgusting to polite society that no woman would ever admit to them. However, now, in this permissive and decadent culture, such relationships were actually encouraged. Robert knew better than to voice his opinion. By marrying Donna, the daughter of Robert and Deborah, Jeff established himself as a man of his own principles. He did not bow to the position of Judge Robert Bussold or the formidable character of Deborah. When Jeff Landry thought he was right, he stood his ground. Donna fell in love with Cajun culture, Cajun cuisine, the people's rich heritage, and lush landscapes. The moment she had her high school diploma, Donna Bussold decided to attend the University of Louisiana at Dard rather than Waylaster University. After graduating from university after 7 years of study, Donna took a job with Tri-Carter, an oil field service provider. I should never have let her go to that damned Marty Gr., Robert thought as Jeff carried his empty plate and the plates of his daughter and her friend into the kitchen, where their maid Daisy stood smiling. A few months after she took the job at Tri-Carter, Donna met 34-year-old Jeff Landry when Deard, an office equipment rental and service company, sent Jeff to fix Tri-Carter's ancient copier. Robert did a background check on the man and didn't like the fact that Jeff Landry was divorced and had an 11-year-old daughter. His wife cheated on him, so they got divorced, Donna explained when Robert expressed concern about his daughter's relationship with Jeff. Despite his misgivings and Deborah's strong dislike for Jeff Andrew Landry, Donna and Jeff married. Their animosity toward Jeff softened a bit when Donna and Jeff suddenly left Dard, Louisiana, and moved to Commads, New Jersey. Donna said she suddenly felt homesick. Jeff offered no opinion or explanation. Robert and Deborah met Jelly, Jeff's daughter, who spent the summer with her father and every other Thanksgiving or Christmas with Jeff and Donna. Despite her warm, bubbly, and friendly personality, Deborah and Robert did not warm to the red pixie. On Jeff's first Thanksgiving, as Jeff placed a plate of jelly in front of his daughter, Deborah announced to the entire family that, since it was Jeff's first Thanksgiving with them, he would be doing the dishes. "This is beautiful china. It belonged to my grandmother and needs to be washed by hand," Deborah said authoritatively. Jeff looked at the cheerful faces of Robert, Donna's two brothers Bobby and Richard, Robert's mother Genevieve Bussold, Deborah's two sisters, and their husbands. Straightening up, Jeff took his daughter's hand and helped her get up. "Donna, we're leaving." "You are walking," Jeff said, leaving no room for argument. "Why, Mom?" Donna growled, hurrying to follow her husband. "Fine," was Deborah's response. Susan, Bobby's wife, and Tricia, Richard's wife, looked at each other, both women silently applauding the way Jeff handled the situation. Later, while the men hung around the office watching the football game, Susan confided to Tricia that if Deborah had pulled that little trick on her, Deborah would have had significantly less of her grandmother's china to treasure. From that day on the very rare occasions that Jeff Landry came to the Bussold house, Deborah and Robert were coolly polite to their son-in-law. Somehow, Donna convinced Jeff that since it was the first Thanksgiving his daughter and her friend had lived in Commads, New Jersey, they should try to show Jelly and Belly some good traditional Thanksgiving food. If the cold atmosphere bothered Jeff, he didn't show it. If the awkward pauses bothered Jeff, Jelly, or Belly, they didn't show it either. The three sat around a large wooden table that was decades old, enjoying some truly delicious food. Deborah pursed her lips in disapproval as she clearly heard Jeff thanking Daisy for the delicious dinner. "Didn't this fool understand that he should thank me, the mistress?" Deborah thought. Although Deborah did not prepare lunch, she provided it, therefore, gratitude should be addressed to her, the mistress, and not to the paid servant. After that, the 15 guests, along with Deborah and Robert, retired to the living room while Daisy and her sister Pet made coffee and cut pumpkin pies. During dinner, Jelly Angel Landry accidentally let it slip that she was pregnant. Amazing. Just great. Another worthless parasite who will suck up our tax dollars for the rest of his days, Robert thought sullenly. Now, in the living room, Susan politely asked Jelly what she planned to name the baby. Robert put a mental black mark on Susan's journal. Susan should have asked if Jelly was planning to have an abortion or, of course, whether adoption was an option, Robert muttered, then fell silent when Jeff shot him a sharp look. "We don't know yet," Jelly said, giving her blonde a loving look. "We thought about Peyton if it's a boy, you know, Peyton Jeffrey Landry Hall," Jelly said. "And Andrea if it's a girl," Jelly added. "Andrea Michelle Landry Hall." Michelle is Jelly's mother's name, Jeff explained to the crowd. "Well, when Bobby and I have a baby," Susan said, "what if it's a boy?" "I have no choice," Bobby said with a smug smile. Robert Stephen 3. "What if it's a girl?" Susan asked. Denise Elizabeth Bussold, Bobby added. "You see, big sister Susan, Denise Elizabeth Prescott died when Susan was little," Bobby explained, although no one asked him to. "Oh, what a tragedy," Deborah said with barely a hint of emotion in her voice. "I like the name Carter if it's a boy," Donna chimed in, "and Willa if it's a girl." Jelly and Belly looked at each other, silently discussing these names. Robert noticed the death glare Jeff gave Donna. Donna also noticed her husband's gaze and shuddered. "You're an incredible damn fool," Jeff hissed, his voice full of venom. "Hey, stop!" Bobby stood up. "Oh, I wish I could," Jeff snorted, also standing up and clenching his fists. Bobby was 6 inches and 50 pounds larger than the smaller man. Even after 4 glasses of his father's Oakleaf whiskey, Bobby was smart enough to know he stood little chance against his little Cajun brother-in-law, especially in such an outraged state. "Dad," Jelly asked, noticing the tension in the room. This little man wants you to name my grandson after your lover," Jeff hissed, glaring hatefully at his wife. The women in the room screamed at the man's vulgarity and the revelation. Donna burst into tears. Robert jumped up from his comfortable rocking chair, determined to take control of the awkward situation. "Don't come home, do you hear? I do not want to see you. I don't want you anywhere near me, you hear?" Jeff ordered, heading toward the door. "Dad, wait! We need to get our coats," Jelly called to him as she followed her father. "I'll take them," Belly offered. Belly slipped past the bumbling Robert Bussold and rushed to the guest room. She quickly found her coat, Jelly's coat, and Jeff's coat. She grabbed their purses and walked back to the front door of the house. As Belly walked past Donna, she saw a crumpled, defeated woman. She didn't see the usual, rather arrogant Miss Donna who looked down on her and Jelly. Belly wondered why she had no sympathy for the real Donna Landry. "Thanks, Sugar Pretzel," Jeff said, calling Belly by the affectionate nickname he gave her when Jelly introduced her to her dad. "I'll take you to your apartment," Jeff said as they climbed into his dark green 2016 Dodge Ram 3500 Mega Cab pickup truck. "You don't need help?" Jelly asked. "Maybe. I probably need a lot of help." "What can you do?" Jeff said. "Dad, I'm sorry," Jelly said. "I know you loved her," Jeff said. "You said it right, sweet bunny." "I loved her in the past," Jeff sighed. The trio fell into silence as Jeff maneuvered through the unusually calm streets of Commads, New Jersey. Everyone seemed to be inside, enjoying a quiet dinner with family, friends, and loved ones. Jeff turned onto a small dead-end street and stopped at an apartment complex. "When I found out about her little affair with Big Bill Carter, God, I almost killed her," Jeff said as he parked the car. "Minnie, Mrs. Carter, Big Bill's wife, put an end to it before I had the chance. Then she says, let's move back to New Jersey." Belly and Jelly waited for Jeff to continue his story. The heater was on full blast, and they didn't want to get out of the car into the cold wind. "I thought, okay, why not? I don't know all the facts. Did he force her? Did he threaten her? I really thought we had put this behind us, left it in the past where it belonged. But now, Jeff hit the steering wheel, wants you to name my grandson, my precious granddaughter, after this scoundrel. Belly and Jelly jumped as Jeff let out an agonized scream. He slammed his fists on the steering wheel again. Finally, he sighed and pressed the electronic door locks, unlocking the car. "Bye, Dad." "I love you," Jelly said quietly, kissing her father on the cheek. "Bye, Mr. Jeff." "I love you," Belly said, also kissing the man on the cheek. "Why do you need such a stupidly big truck?" Jelly complained, crawling out of the truck backward. Jeff smiled as he saw his daughter's friend's amused grin before she slammed the truck door. He watched as the two girls quickly walked up the metal steps to their apartment. He honked his horn a little as they entered their small apartment on the 3rd floor. At home in the 3-bedroom ranch-style house that he and Donna had rented with an option to buy, Jeff walked in and looked around. As he walked through the rooms, he was disheartened to see that there was nothing here he wanted to take with him, apart from his clothes and tools. Over the 5, almost 6, years of their marriage, Donna had almost completely gotten rid of everything that belonged to Jeff. "Damn, this makes it almost too easy," Jeff muttered. Logging into their joint bank account, Jeff split the account in half by making an electronic transfer. He did the same with their 2 savings accounts. One was a mutual fund, and the other was an account they had opened in hopes of buying a house. Each pay period, they paid their bills, and 10% of the remaining balance went into the house account. Jeff then opened a link to another bank. After transferring the funds he had just withdrawn, Jeff opened an account in Jelly's name and deposited the money into it. He used his daughter's address and mobile phone number and set the password with Michelle Borden's initials and birthday. After gathering his clothes and tools, Jeff loaded up his truck and drove to the Hideaway Inn. He chuckled when the front desk clerk told him there were free movies available in the room. Jeff called his daughter and told her that she had a new bank account and that the documents would probably arrive on Monday or Tuesday of next week. The account was not for Jelly to do with as she pleased. This was done so that Judge Robert Bussold would somehow not be able to get his hands on the money. "I will pay all taxes and other fees on this bill," Jeff promised his daughter while talking to Jelly. Jeff noticed he had received several text messages and 3 voicemails from Donna. Nodding his head, Jeff remembered Deborah's insistence that everyone turn off their cell phones during their Thanksgiving dinner. Of course, this rule did not apply to Robert, Bobby, or Richard. It concerned only outsiders and strangers. "I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking," and other apologies seemed to be the norm from Donna. Jeff deleted the texts and also deleted the voicemails without listening to them. He didn't want to hear any more excuses from his wife. Jeff sent a text message to Donna's cell phone letting her know she could come home. He had moved out of their house. He then blocked Donna's cell phone number, her mother's cell phone number, her father's cell phone number, and the numbers of her 2 brash brothers. In the meantime, he turned on the TV and began to switch channels, choosing from the available films. The next morning, Friday, Jeff enjoyed the continental breakfast the motel offered, then used the motel's Wi-Fi to find a lawyer. Ronald O'Donnell was available. He didn't take 4 days off. "Yeah, it helps being an only child with really lousy parents," Ronald joked. "Does your wife have no family?" Jeff asked, noticing the large wedding ring on Ronald's left ring finger. "None. They rejected him," Ronald said. "Oh," Jeff said, presenting Ronald with all the information he had, including the prenuptial agreement Judge Robert Bussold had insisted on. "Should have seen the original," Jeff chuckled. "In the original, Donna got everything. If I farted in any way wrong." "Knowing Judge Robert Stephen Bussold, I can imagine," said Ronald. "Unfortunately, you continued to live with Mrs. Landry even after you learned of her infidelity. I assume that you also continued to enjoy intimacy with her?" "Enjoying might be a strong word," Jeff chuckled as his cell phone rang. "Sorry, I need to take this call." "This is my boss, Patrick Turner," Jeff said, apologizing for taking the call while he was supposed to be spending the weekend. Patrick had a client, a longtime client, who was having problems with an old model color copier. Patrick promised double pay if Jeff could fix it. "I told him it would be a minimum of 3 hours," Jeff said. Desperate, Patrick advised, "Give me an hour. I'm busy doing something right now." "Quit your job, pat her on the 5th place, take a shower, and get to Joe's office ASAP," Patrick ordered, laughing. "I will, boss," Jeff said. "Would you like me to convey your greetings to her?" "No." "Find out if she has a sister," Patrick said, then ended the conversation. Using his phone, Jeff made a transfer from his new account to pay Ronald the advance. Ronald promised to submit the documents to the Saladin County office before the end of the working day. He shrugged when Jeff reminded him that Donna's father was Judge Robert Bussold. The Saladin Circuit Court clerk appeared to have been ordered to slow down any paperwork filed by Jeff Landry or any attorney acting on his behalf. With a grin, Ronald simply filed the same paperwork with the state of New Jersey, bypassing Saladin County. The smile disappeared from the court clerk's face as the filing notification instantly appeared on her computer screen. Judge Bussold then tried to overload Jeff and his lawyer with the help of her father's connections. Donna hired the law firm of Cooper, Farnsworth, Wells and Associates. Ronald chuckled as he and Jeff sat across from the large conference table, facing James Farnsworth and the 3 junior partners. New Jersey is a no-fault divorce state. Jeff filed for divorce due to irreconcilable differences, although filing for infidelity and providing proof of infidelity would have gotten him a better deal. So, the 4 lawyers representing Donna Landry were simply wasting their time clicking their tongues. Merry Christmas music played overhead. In the corner of the conference room, there was a small plastic tree under which gifts were neatly stacked, wrapped in bright, festive packaging. Jeff was sure that the gifts were just empty boxes wrapped in beautiful paper. When James Farnsworth finally finished speaking, Ronald and Jeff stood up. James's eyes opened wide in surprise when Ronald and Jeff opened the door to the conference room. "Thanks for the coffee," was the only thing Ronald said as they left the room. Jeff felt a small pang of guilt when he heard Donna burst into tears. The door clicked, muffling the sound of her sobs. He followed Ronald to the elevators. Between them, Ronald sighed heavily when the elevator doors closed. "I hate divorces. Yes, they pay the bills, but as a judge, Judge Robert Bussold was able to very quickly schedule a hearing before Judge Shirley Howard. Despite Ronald's objections, Judge Howard ordered at least 8 consultations with a certified divorce counselor. Jeff and Ronald shrugged as they left the courtroom. There was a pathetic Christmas tree in the corner of the hallway. Looking at the plastic symbol of joyful celebration, Jeff wondered how old the tree was. He was willing to bet it had been purchased decades ago. Over the years, the metal trunk wore out, and the holes for attaching the branches to the metal rod gradually widened. Even the decorations seemed old and sad. "Listen, go through your 8 sessions, try not to annoy anyone, and we'll see what happens," Ronald sighed as they waited for the elevator. "You know, I'll take the stairs," Jeff decided as Donna and her group of lawyers entered the hallway. Dr. Roberta Steele was a woman in her late 40s. She avoided makeup of any kind and dressed in tatty, clumsy clothes. Her long, graying brown hair was pulled back into a severe bun, and her glasses constantly slid down the tip of her nose. Her reception area was devoid of any decoration, and the seating was uncomfortable, hard plastic chairs. Even with cheerful Christmas music playing overhead, there were no visual reminders of the season in Dr. Steele's waiting room. Dr. Steele's office was no better. There were no paintings on the walls, which were painted a faded white. Her desk was functional, brown in color, and her office chairs were hard wood. Her eyes hardened as Jeff picked up one of the chairs and placed it as far away from the other chair as possible. "Wow, what an unwelcoming office you have," Jeff said after Dr. Steele finished listing her qualifications. "I arranged the chairs that way on purpose," Dr. Steele replied sharply. "I'm sure you did," Jeff agreed. "And since you insist that we address you as Dr. Steele, my name is Mr. B. Landry. So, you think you'll play hard games with me?" Dr. Steele grinned mockingly. Jeff's smile irritated the woman, who was trying to take control of the situation. Dr. Steele turned to Donna and asked what she hoped to gain from this meeting. "Jeff, please put the phone away," Dr. Steele demanded before Donna could start speaking. "Well, Dr. Steele," Jeff said easily. "The woman barked about that then," Jeff corrected. "I'm Mr. Landry. I record these sessions when we appear before Judge Card. I want to have irrefutable proof that I participated and complied with all reasonable requests." "You can't record these sessions," Dr. Steele cried. "Nonsense," Jeff said. When will you pay me $210 an hour? Jesus, Donna, have you really gone out of your way to find the most expensive consultant in Commonstead? But when will you pay me? Then you can tell me whether I can record these sessions or not, Jeff stated firmly. He gave the enraged woman another friendly smile. Donna waited until the confrontation between her husband and the doctor was over. Besides, who knows? Your words may be so inspiring and useful that I will want to hear them again and again, Jeff suggested, smiling widely. Go ahead, Donna, Dr. Steele barked, conceding this confrontation to Jeff Landry. For the next 30 minutes, Donna sobbed as she told her side of the story. She claimed that she hoped for a chance for herself and Jeff, the absolute love of her life, to find a way back to loving each other. After all, we are expecting our first grandchild, Donna sobbed. Mr. Landry, Dr. Steele asked as Donna blew her nose into the very cheap tissue Dr. Steele had provided. Yes, Dr. Steele, Jeff said. What are your goals? To get a divorce from this willfully unfaithful woman, Jeff said. Dr. Steele's face reddened with anger as Jeff sat silently, looking at her. And will you add anything else? Dr. Steele ordered. Jeff said, oh, okay. Your reception area is terrible. Your office is even worse, there is nothing warm or welcoming about it. No effort is made to make your clients feel comfortable or cozy. What I meant was, Roberta snapped, when someone first meets you, instead of greeting them and making some kind of contact, you try to impress them by listing your degrees, numerous theses, and publications. After you have intimidated your clients into accepting that you are some kind of expert, you force them to contact you based on your purchased and paid for title. Again, instead of making any connection or rapport, you use your credentials to suppress them. Jeff continued, Mr. Landry, that's enough, Roberta hissed. And let's talk about you personally, Jeff said. Oh my God, have you ever heard of cosmetics? I'm not telling you to apply a ton, but damn it, make some effort. A little cream under those eyes to get rid of dark circles, a little foundation, okay, in your case, a lot of foundation just to smooth out that patchy skin. Remember, we have to look at you. A little eyeliner, a little mascara, try to do something with those flat, dirty brown eyes. Mr. Landry, that's more than enough, Roberta said loudly. And this hair, you know, my sister used to tie her hair in a bun or braid when it needed a wash, but she didn't have time. But what if you make this bun even tighter? Your eyes will look Asian, I swear. Jeff continued, and let's talk about those clothes. Did you specifically go looking for the most unattractive clothes you could find? Good job. I honestly didn't know they still made polyester leisure suits. Oh, that's right, for women, they're not called leisure suits, they're called pantsuits. But what if you dress to look serious and professional? You failed. If anything, you look like a clown. Go away, leave my office now, Roberta growled. And that's why I recorded this session. You're making me leave 10 minutes early, Jeff smiled, rising to his feet. Oh my God, Roberta exclaimed bitterly as the door clicked softly behind Jeff. Are you sure you want to stay married to this person? Donna said nothing as she stood up and left the office, just in time to see the elevator door close behind Jeff. Standing upright in a small booth at the next session, Jeff asked Dr. Steele if she was married. She refused to answer, so Jeff quickly searched his cell phone, even when Roberta demanded he put it away. The answer is no, you are not married and never were, Jeff read aloud. And your dissertation is about life and in society. That doesn't inspire confidence that you understand anything about relationships. Jeff turned to Donna, who waited with her head down. Donna, why did you choose this woman? Is this some kind of joke? Jeff addressed Donna directly for the first time since that fateful Thanksgiving at her parents' house. I'm qualified, Roberta began. Yes, isn't it? Jeff turned to the doctor. Tell me, Dr. Steele, how many of your clients actually managed to save their broken relationships after visiting you? I have no idea, Roberta began. Less than 12%, Jeff answered for her. 11.5%, according to Salado County records. Are you finished? Roberta barked. Yes, I finished long before I came here last week. But apparently, the courts need proof of this, Jeff smiled his annoying smile. At the end of the session, Jeff made Dr. Steele's blood boil by wishing her a Merry Christmas. His laughter, when he looked at her hateful gaze, angered the woman even more. On the bitterly cold Christmas morning, Donna must have been using Daisy's cell phone. Jeff stoically listened to the voicemail in which Donna tearfully wished him a Merry Christmas and declared her undying love for him. He then deleted the message. Jelly's pregnancy had already become noticeable. Jeff hugged her and kissed the top of his daughter's head, wishing her a Merry Christmas. He then hugged Belly and wished her a Merry Christmas as well. Christmas Mass at St. John the Baptist Catholic Church was packed. The priest was a young Vietnamese man who seemed to really love his calling. He promised the congregation to be brief, as there was hot cocoa waiting for him in the annex, and assured them, "Don't worry if there's some Irish whiskey in there," causing several knowing smiles among the congregation. Back at their apartment, Jeff, Jelly, and Belly unwrapped each other's Christmas presents. Jeff looked up when Belly quietly asked him if he missed Mrs. Donna. I know, no, Belly, Jeff said with difficulty. Once the trust was broken, I was just waiting for the next big bill collector to show up to take her away. In the third scheduled session, which took place on Tuesday, January 4th, Jeff allowed Donna to vent her feelings. He allowed Dr. Steele to conduct the session, politely answering her questions but not expanding on his answers unless asked. "But, Mr. Landry, you knew about Donna's affair but continued your relationship with her," Dr. Steele prodded, losing patience with the tiresome man. "Well, Dr. Steele, before I continue, can I ask Donna a question?" Jeff said, grinning at the woman's sudden outburst. Yes, of course," the woman agreed. "Donna, why did you stop contacting Big Bill?" Jeff asked. I realized it wasn't right," Donna hesitated. I realized that I was married to the man of my dreams and had no money or power. Big Bill Carter was a force to be reckoned with. He was such a physical presence, you know. But in the end, I finally decided that as exciting as it wasn't worth losing you, Jeff." "Mr. Landry, who are you calling?" exclaimed Roberta. "Hello, Mrs. Carter," Jeff said into his cell phone. Roberta didn't miss Donna's suddenly lost face. She turned her head to stare at her shocked client, distracting herself from Jeff. "Mr. Landry," I said, Roberta began. "Sorry, yes ma'am, Minnie," Jeff smiled. "So, Minnie, I'll put you on speaker, okay?" Okay, came Minnie Carter's laughing voice through the speaker. "Hi Donna, how are you?" "Mr. Landry, turn it off now," Dr. Steele ordered, trying to rise from her wobbly office chair. "So, Minnie, why did Donna end her affair with your husband?" Jeff asked, still looking straight at the defeated Donna Landry. "Because she knew I would kill her if she didn't stop," Minnie said without hesitation in her voice. "Oh, can you elaborate?" Jeff asked, his hand holding his cell phone outstretched away from Roberta. "Yes, I caught them having intimacy on his Italian leather couch. When I grabbed the huge meat cleaver," Minnie laughed. "Mr. Landry, I told you to turn it off," Roberta demanded, trying to reach her cell phone. "Yeah, she still has that little scar where you cut her," Jeff said, holding the phone high above his head so Roberta couldn't reach it. "Turn it off," Donna sobbed. "Just turn it off." "Oh, Minnie, let me send you a picture," Jeff said, turning away from Roberta. "By the way, thanks for the photos you sent me, they might come in handy." "You never know." Said Minnie. "Who is it?" "Jeff, this is Donna and her dad," Jeff said. "Notice the similarities?" Can we say electrocomplex?" Minnie agreed. "Looks just like Big Bill, doesn't he?" "You win," Donna sobbed as she curled up into a ball. "Okay, you win." "So, Roberta, Dr. Steele, now that we've established that Donna is a liar," Jeff said, glaring at the furious consultant, "get out. I want you to leave. Leave this office right now." Roberta screamed, furious. Judge Shirley Howard was less than thrilled when she read Dr. Roberta Steele's report. Despite thinly veiled threats from Judge Bussold, Shirley signed the papers granting a divorce to Jeff and Donna Landry. As Robert read the file that Shirley had couriered to his office, he bit the inside of his cheek, wincing in pain from the bleeding wound. Judge Robert Bussold cursed Jeff Landry again. Donna, his beautiful little girl, looked exhausted and defeated. She lost 20 pounds that she was already missing. Only God knows why you even wanted to stay married to that little cinnamon roll, Robert muttered, throwing the papers onto his cluttered desk. Taking the phone, Robert dialed Patrick Turner's number. He informed Patrick that it would be in his best interest for Jeff Landry to lose his job now that Jeff could not come back and demand child support from Donna. Yeah, screw you, Bussold, Patrick laughed. Like I'm going to lose my best employee just because your little feelings got hurt. You know, I don't think you can afford to get into a conflict with me. Turner, Robert growled. Well, damn it, did I forget to tell you the conversation is being recorded, idiot? Patrick chuckled. You cannot use this. This is unacceptable. Who said something about the trial? Robert muttered. Am I just accidentally passing this on to a reporter from Saladu CR that we both know? Jesus, Robert S. Bussold, you're such a dumbass, Patrick said to himself later that evening, noticing that he was being followed by a police car. At the next turn, the police car turned on its flashing lights. Patrick stopped at the side of the road and took out his cell phone. The smug cop walked up to the driver's window, grinning. Good evening, Sergeant Parnell, Patrick said pleasantly. Why was I stopped? License and registration, Sergeant Parnell ordered curtly. Of course, Sergeant Parnell, Patrick said, reaching toward the passenger side of his vehicle. I'm getting the registration out of the glove box. I'll be back, Sergeant Parnell barked roughly, snatching the documents from Patrick's hands. Sergeant Parnell spent a lot of time sitting in his car. When he finally got tired of keeping Patrick waiting, he got out of his warm car again and walked over to Patrick's car. He frowned when he saw Patrick talking on his cell phone. Well, do you think your lawyer can do anything for you? Sergeant Parnell thought to himself, frowning. Here he comes, Patrick said, rolling down the driver's window again. Sir, put down the phone and get out of the car, Sergeant Parnell ordered. Did you hear him? Patrick asked, holding the cell phone up. Yes, I heard him, a voice answered from the car speakers as Patrick put the call on speaker. This is Captain Al Bentley. Officer Parnell, why was Mr. Turner ordered to exit the vehicle? This is Sergeant Parnell. Sergeant Parnell hesitated, losing all his confidence. If you don't give me a satisfactory answer to my question, it will be Officer Parnell. Captain Bentley said sharply. Robert Bussold felt no remorse for Sergeant Parnell's failure. Men like Sergeant Parnell were expendable. He managed to get the county to switch their service contract to a startup service company. The loss of revenue did impact Patrick Turner, but not for long. The loss of the contract only lasted until the cable network in court failed, and the smaller company was unable to fix the network. The new company also failed to recover any information from the old file system, jeopardizing decades of records dating from 1985 to the present. Jeff, I know if I send you this, it will really excite some people, Patrick smiled as he negotiated the renewal of the bonus for his company. No, Mrs. Barney, you hear me? $25,000 or good luck with your system. I've been telling you for years that you need an upgrade, Patrick said, covering his mouth with the landline phone. He reminded Jeff to be on his best behavior, even if he accidentally ran into Judge Robert Bussold. He then returned his attention to the county controller and refused to give in, even as he waved for Jeff to leave the office. On April 15th, while many people were rushing to finish their paperwork, trying to figure out how much money to give to the IRS, Angel was rushed to Solado General Hospital in Carlton, New Jersey. The frail woman had a cesarean section. Her OBGYN determined that this was the best decision for mother and baby. Andrea Michelle Landry Hall, you are the most beautiful little girl in the world, Jelly said, holding the little red bundle. And you are the most beautiful mother in the world, Belly declared, sobbing while standing next to Jelly's bed. Of course, Jeff agreed, wiping away his own tears of joy. After all, we have the most handsome dad and grandfather in the world. Oh, is he coming later? Asked the obstetrician-gynecologist, his lively brown eyes sparkling with amusement. Oh, that's cruel. It's just so cruel. Jeff laughed, taking another photo of his granddaughter on his cell phone. I'm too young to be a grandma, Jelly's mother, Michelle, responded to the photos Jeff sent her. Somehow Donna found out about Andrea's birth. Jeff deleted the voicemail she left on his cell phone, congratulating him. Jelly showed her father a beautiful ballerina doll and a silver set of combs and brushes that Donna had sent for Andrea. "What do you want me to do, Dad?" Jelly asked. "Honey, I want you to do what's best for Andrea in everything, always. Always do what's best for your little girl," Jeff said. "I love you so much, Daddy," Jelly declared, placing the sleeping baby on her chest. "Yes," said Belly on October 15th, Andrea's 6-month birthday. Jelly reminded Jeff that his own birthday was coming up soon. Belly made fun of Jeff, pointing out all the gray hairs woven through his short brown hair. She screamed and then laughed as Jeff grabbed her hand and bit her finger. "Don't worry, Mr. Jeff," Belly said, clinging to him. 22 years is not that long at all. "Oh, you little girl," Jeff laughed, hugging Belly tightly. "I will be 42, not 22. "Is it true?" Belly asked, giggling. "Wow, time hasn't been kind to you." "So seriously, Dad, what do you want for your birthday?" Jelly asked, slapping Belly's hand for her lack of respect for her father. "Bunny, what else could I need?" Jeff asked. "I have a beautiful daughter." "Two," Belly reminded him. "And one snotty daughter," Jeff continued, causing Belly to squeal and Jelly to giggle. Leaving their third-floor apartment, Jeff went down to his first-floor apartment. He entered the 2-room apartment and hung his light jacket on the antique coat rack by the front door. Looking around the apartment, Jeff nodded, pleased. Not bad for a bachelor pad, he decided, taking a Grady's beer from the refrigerator. The combined living and dining room had a small sofa and armchair. The light brown leather sofa and the hunter green velvet chair complemented each other. The antique brass floor lamp in the corner went well with the sofa and armchair. The dining room table and 4 chairs were lightwood with antique brass fittings. Jeff wasn't even aware of this fact when he bought the set from a used store. Belly was the one who pointed out that the table and chairs and floor lamp matched perfectly, tying both rooms together. His kitchen was small, barely functional, but since he mostly only cooked for one, it was adequate. When he moved in, Jeff thought Donna would have immediately rejected the apartment just because of the kitchen. The bathroom was also tiny, it was barely possible to turn around in it. But since Jeff only used the room for the most basic needs, it suited him. He wasn't going to take bubble baths, wear makeup, or style his hair. The first bedroom Jeff thought was better suited for a large closet. He bought the crib, changing table, and matching toy box at a garage sale. There was a playpen in the closet. Jeff guessed he'd have to use it soon, considering Andrea was already 6 months old. His own bedroom was equipped with a queen-sized bed with a Tempur-Pedic mattress. Patrick Turner, his boss and friend, accused Jeff of being like a girl because he loved the lush, comfortable bed. Jeff asked Patrick what he and his guys slept on. A tall chest of drawers and a low chest of drawers with an attached mirror occupy the north and east walls, Patrick said. The nightstand was the perfect size to sit next to the bed on the south wall, one any wider would interfere with the closet door opening. The rent was a little high, but since he lived just a few steps down from his daughter and granddaughter, Jeff didn't mind paying it each month neatly on the first day of each month. He smiled, reminding himself he had 2 daughters and a granddaughter. Since he lived just a few steps down the stairs, Jeff was the constant babysitter whenever Jelly and Belly needed to run errands, go shopping, or even go on a date. What a date, Jeff snorted. The girl's idea of a date was to go to Wall's Pizzeria next door and order a large Wally Hardbanger pizza. The duo would then head straight to the arcade next door or across the street to the Garden State Bowling Club. Holding hands and happy with joy, they would return to pick up Andrea and head back to their apartment. "Yeah," Jeff said, emptying his can of beer. "What a date. But they are happy." Sitting on the bed, Jeff brought the empty can to his lips. Realizing the can was empty, Jeff placed it on the nightstand. He sat for a long time, just looking ahead and seeing nothing. On October 31st, Patrick opined that Halloween was the perfect date for Jeff's birthday. "After all, Jeff, you're definitely a terror. Roses are red, cucumbers are green, You don't need a mask even if it's Halloween, Patrick said, as he gave Jeff a $150 gift card to Wall's Pizza. Roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet. What the hell happened to you? Jeff replied, then thanked Patrick for the gift card. Jelly and Belly will definitely appreciate it, that's for sure, Jeff thought, putting the card in his wallet. At lunchtime, Belly sent a text message asking if she could bring a friend to the special dinner she and Jelly were cooking for his birthday. Jeff was surprised by this but agreed that Belly could, of course, bring a friend, if only it wasn't Donna. Jeff suddenly thought, receiving a series of kissing faces and cake emojis from Belly. Belly worked for Dependable Commercial and Residential Cleaners. Dependable's office was in the same building as the First National Bank of ComEd, where Donna was the executive assistant to branch manager Beverly Hollister. Sometimes Belly crossed paths with Donna and told Jeff about these meetings. "She looks terrible," was usually Belly's first comment, or she would say, "She asked about you." A toner cartridge exploded in Jeff's hands at his last client's office. The work shirt was completely ruined, as were the trousers. The work boots were already running low, so Jeff wasn't too upset about them. But that meant he had to call Jelly and tell her he had to clean up before he could come up for his birthday dinner. "Okay, Dad, see you soon," Jelly said happily. "But he'll still come, right?" Belly insisted, and Jeff prayed again that the friend wouldn't be Donna. Donna called him that morning, apparently from his office phone. Jeff responded, thinking it might be a new client, since he had taken down the startup company that Robert Bussold used to try to take down Patrick Turner. Their business had nearly doubled. "Happy birthday to you," Donna sang, trying to imitate Marilyn Monroe. "Thanks, Donna," Jeff snapped, then ended the phone call. Relatively clean industrial products would be required to remove the ink from his hands. Jeff walked up to his daughter's apartment. When he knocked on the door, he heard 3 squeals from the other side and smiled at the sounds of youthful fun. "He is here! Andrea, the boy's birthday is here!" Jelly announced as Belly opened the door. "Hey, sugar pretzel," Jeff smiled, kissing the cute blonde. "I thought I was a snotty booger," Belly countered. "Hello, you must be Belly's friend," Jeff said to the red-haired girl sitting at the small dining table. "Dad, this is Sydney," Belly introduced. "And guess what? Today is also her birthday." When he first looked into the girl's eyes, Jeff felt a spark. As he shook her warm, soft hand, he thought it must be static electricity. He looked into her caramel brown eyes for a long moment before letting go of her small hand. "Yes, Mom's in Trenton for some symposium, and Dad swears he's in Vancouver on a business trip and can't leave," Sydney smiled. "So Arabella," Belly said, "I just had to come. You'll have chicken and sausage gumbo. And is this what I think I feel? Oh, and happy birthday." "Sorry, I didn't know, so I didn't buy you a card or anything," Jeff said. "You can buy it for her tomorrow," Belly suggested. "Hi, Dad," Jelly smiled proudly at the stove. "Bonnie, when did you learn to make roux?" Jeff asked, kissing his daughter. "But God, it smells fantastic." It actually came from a can," Jelly admitted. "Mom sent it a couple of weeks ago when I told her I wanted to make you gumbo." "Well, that was very nice of her," Jeff said, a little surprised by his ex-wife's gesture. Returning to the dining room, Jeff greeted his granddaughter. Andrea smiled at him from her playpen with her 2 teeth. Jeff then turned his attention back to Sydney. Poor Sydney was red-haired with pale skin and freckles. Her eyes were a warm brown color and expressive. She had a thin nose and lips shaped like a cupid's bow. Her sleeveless dress was bright orange and featured 2 smiling pumpkins above Sydney's chest. Because of the decorative pumpkins, Jeff could only guess at the size of Sydney's breasts but assumed they were moderately full. She sat with her feet under the table, so Jeff couldn't tell how tall Sydney might be. Her bare arms were slender, so Jeff assumed Sydney wasn't overweight. Miss Michelle even sent Crystal's hot sauce, Belly revealed, placing a large bottle of the delicious hot sauce on the table. Jeff was served first, although he insisted that Sydney should be served first. She received a second helping and waited for Jelly and Belly to get their bowls. There were also small bowls of potato salad next to each one. Before sitting down, Jelly placed 2 packages of saltine crackers on the table. Jeff tried the gumbo and then grabbed the bottle of hot sauce. Sydney carefully tasted the dish and then stared at Jeff. "How can you add more hot sauce?" Sydney asked. "He's a Cajun," Belly shrugged. "And this makes his stomach made of cast iron?" Sydney asked while they were eating. Jeff learned that the red-haired girl worked as an executive assistant for Walden Donaldson. She had worked for King Sanitation and Disposal since she received her certificate from Saluda County Vocational Technical High School, starting as a receptionist and gradually working her way up to the executive manager's office. No, sit down. "I know where the kitchen is," Sydney said when she needed a glass of ice water. Jeff's eyes widened as Sydney left the table. The orange dress stopped mid-thigh, showing off her pale legs. The pale legs were slender and muscular. Jeff suggested that, like Donna and Michelle, Sydney was quite athletic in school. Donna was a cheerleader, and Michelle played volleyball. Donna and Michelle had round butts, and Sydney's dress perfectly emphasized her appetizing curves. Her waist-length hair did not stop Jeff from examining her charms as she walked into the kitchen. "Isn't she so cute?" Belly whispered urgently to Jeff. "Yes, she is very sweet and young," Jeff replied. "Too young for me." "God, Belly, she's the same age as you and Jelly." "Yes," Jelly whispered, "and she's a couple of years older." Belly countered, "Guys, are you talking about me?" Sydney asked, returning to the dinner table. "I'm really sorry. I know you like strong iced tea, but you can paint the walls with this tea." "Daddy thinks he's too old for you," Jelly said. Sydney looked up from her bowl of gumbo. Jeff flushed bright red as the beautiful redhead met his gaze. Her cheerful smile revealed perfect white teeth. "Well," Belly said, "you're old. Very old." "About 72 years or so," Sydney said. Belly squealed with laughter. "That's all?" "You're definitely a snot-nosed booger," Jeff said. "But you look pretty good for a 70-year-old, Sydney said, washing down her meal with another sip of ice-cold water. "Oh gee, thank you," Jeff laughed. After lunch, Jelly and Belly hurried to the kitchen. A few moments later, they began singing happy birthday as they brought a store-bought cake out of the kitchen. Jeff laughed when he saw the 7 and 2 candles burning on the cake. After the cake and ice cream, Sydney hugged Jelly and Belly. She thanked them for the invitation and for making her 22nd birthday unforgettable. "Bye, Jeff," Sydney said, looking deep into his eyes. "I hope I see you again." "Oh no, ma'am. I'll walk you to your car," Jeff insisted. "This is a nice area, but a beautiful woman shouldn't be out alone after dark." "A Southern gentleman," Sydney exclaimed enthusiastically, throwing her arm around Jeff. "I hope we see you again," Sydney said again, lightly kissing Jeff's lips before getting into her car. Yeah," Jeff said as she pulled out of the parking lot. The next morning at work, Patrick asked Jeff how his birthday was. Jeff paused in wiping the ink off his skin and gave Patrick a tight smile. "You know, I feel cheap and used," Jeff said. Dude, what happened?" Patrick asked, genuinely concerned. "Oh my God, I don't even have. My right hand. I just want to get this over with as quickly as possible so I can go back to picking my nose or scratching my fifth placess." Jeff hung his head. This could be a great moment, and Jesus man, I thought you were serious for a minute." Patrick laughed. Between calls, Jeff stopped and bought a late birthday card at the local Abad's grocer's. He found a beautiful flower arrangement already in a vase. During his lunch break, he stopped by the King Sanitation and Disposal building. "Oh, who is this for?" exclaimed the striking blonde, ready to call someone on speakerphone. "Delivery for Sydney Poor," Jeff muttered, suddenly feeling rather stupid. "Oh, how wonderful," the girl said and called Sydney's desk. "Yes, Miss Poor, you have flowers." "No, I am not joking." "Sydney, why should I joke about this?" A moment later, the elevator door opened, and Sydney walked into the lobby. Jeff thought she looked mature, confident, and reserved in her business suit, a small 3/4 sleeve jacket and knee-length navy skirt with a light gray and white striped blouse. However, the mature, confident look disappeared as she screamed and rushed towards Jeff. "Oh, Jeff, you shouldn't have done this," Sydney exclaimed. "Sydney, hey, shut up," Evelyn interjected. "Yes, he should have given you flowers. Are you crazy?" The receptionist, Evelyn, continued, "Jeff, this is Evelyn. She got my old job after I moved to Mr. Donaldson's office. Evelyn, this is Jeff Landry, my boyfriend. Have you already had lunch? There's a dining room upstairs where you can take a roll or salad." Most people bring their own, but Sydney was delighted, pulling Jeff towards the elevator. "God, I can't believe it. You even remember that blue is my favorite color." Sydney admired the flowers as they climbed to her floor. "Let me just put them on the table and then we'll go to dinner." "I can't believe it." "You really shouldn't have done that," Sydney said. "But I'm glad I did," Jeff thought. "And no, I didn't remember that blue was your favorite color." Jeff smiled as Sydney found the perfect place for the flowers in the cafeteria. Jeff bought a salad of mixed greens and turkey, and Sydney chose a chef's salad. They found a table to enjoy their lunch. A man approached with a smile. Jeff recognized the uniform shirt. "Walden Donaldson," Jeff exclaimed, also recognizing Walden's accent. "When will you finish lunch?" "Take your time, but when you're done, come see me. I want to see what Turner can do for us here." I recognize that accent. I would recognize him anywhere. "Where are you from?" Jeff asked. "From a small place you've probably never heard of," Walden smiled widely. "Dequindre, Louisiana." "Oh no, it can't be," Jeff exclaimed. "Me too." "Where did you study?" Walden laughed a genuinely joyful laugh. "When you finish here, come in. Do you hear back at the office?" Jeff casually told Patrick that they could get a service contract from King Sanitation. Patrick snorted in bewilderment. "What?" "I've been trying to get them for the last 3 years." Patrick taunted. "I'm almost done." "What was his name?" "Brian?" "No, Bryce. Bryce Adams." But then they kicked him out of there with a $50 gift card in their pocket. Jelly and Belly were eager to go out on a date, so Jeff set up the playpen in his living room. After heating up the leftover gumbo, Jeff enjoyed a nice meal to cap off a really good day. "Okay, this Friday?" "No, I can't look after my granddaughter," Jeff told the 2 girls when they came to pick up Andrea. "I have a date." "Thank you very much." "Oh, okay," Belly said, smiling and throwing the diaper bag over her shoulder. "Ready?" Jeff and Sydney went to dinner at a Chinese restaurant, and Jeff impressed Sydney with his skill with chopsticks. Afterwards, they went to a corn maze, took a ride in a hot air balloon, and ended the evening enjoying mugs of hot chocolate by a roaring fire. On Saturday night, Sydney took Jeff to a laser art exhibit. Jeff liked the visuals, but the loud, monotonous techno music didn't appeal to him. During the week, Jeff managed to spend time with his granddaughter. He was attentive to the baby, even as texts kept coming on his cell phone. But suddenly, Friday and Saturday were busy. Jelly complained cheerfully, and Belly boasted with satisfaction. On the Saturday before Thanksgiving, Jeff and Sydney were at an Italian restaurant in Carlton. They planned to go to a nearby nightclub. Sydney wanted to dance and knew the drummer of a cover band. Jeff suddenly said, looking at the restaurant door. "Problems?" Sydney asked, looking at him from behind her Caesar salad. "Oh, no," said Jeff. "So why did you say HM like that?" Sydney insisted, watching as the hostess ushered 2 people to a nearby table. "Well, this is Donna, my ex-wife," Jeff admitted, looking at a very exhausted Donna Bussold and Seamus Mullen, her boyfriend since school days. Jeff knew that Donna's mother, Deborah, approved of Seamus. She definitely talked about it in front of Jeff. Deborah also placed Seamus and Donna's graduation photo prominently on the mantelpiece. Jeff didn't know where Deborah Bussold kept the photo of Donna and Jeff's wedding. At several dinners, Deborah talked about Seamus's latest achievements to Donna. "She's beautiful," Sydney suggested, looking at the blonde in her expensive clothes. "Sydney, she looks exhausted," Jeff said. Jeff noticed the bags under Donna's eyes. The makeup hid them well, but Jeff knew his ex-wife too well to miss them. He also saw that Donna had lost a lot of weight. Her skin was stretched taut over her face, and although she smiled at the mockingly posing Seamus Mullen, Jeff could see that the smile did not reach her eyes. He shook his head and went back to his Caesar salad. "Do you want to go?" Sydney asked. "What, and skip the sausage and linguine?" "You haven't stopped talking about it," Jeff said as the waitress took their salad plates away. "You didn't stop talking. You talked endlessly about how this is the best sausage and linguine you will ever eat." "I'll never be able to eat anything else in my life," Jeff joked. "Oh, shut up." "I didn't say anything like that," Sydney objected, laughing. After a truly delicious dinner, Jeff paid the bill and helped Sydney out of her seat. As Jeff turned to offer his hand to Sydney, he heard a loud sigh. He looked back to see Donna's frightened face looking at him. Jeff saw her eyes fill with tears as he held Sydney's hand. The cover band was good, with a talented singer. They would never win a record deal, but they could pay their bills by playing these events. Jeff and Sydney danced to the band's music. When they called a break, Sydney pulled Jeff backstage. The loader smiled and made no attempt to stop Sydney, even as he talked and joked with the musicians. Jeff was puzzled by his ex-wife's unhappiness. Even with Sydney clinging to him, Jeff was worried about Donna's distress. When the band called a break again, Sydney said they had to leave, snuggling close to him as they walked to his truck. "What do you care?" "You can't see it in the dark," Jeff said as he realized her words and what they meant. "I'm not going to pee in a dirty toilet," Sydney said. "Darling, my apartment is spotless," Jeff assured her, helping her into the car. "Remember, I'm looking after my granddaughter in this apartment. It's clean." While Jeff tried not to break any traffic laws, Robert Bussold felt his hatred for Jeffrey Andrew Landry rekindling. After several months of therapy, which was very embarrassing for Robert, his daughter seemed to be beginning to emerge from her self-imposed cocoon of punishment. She even agreed to go on a date with Seamus McCullen. And just to really rub it in her face, her ex-husband showed up. According to Seamus, Jeff was there with a red-haired girl who looked too young to drink the wine they had during their meal. None of the photographs on Seamus's mobile phone showed the woman's face. Robert agreed the dress was too short to be decent, but the girl had nice legs and a cute fifth place. The clothes, whatever they were, looked expensive, and Robert recognized the Rolex watch on the girl's right wrist. From this little fact, he concluded that the red-haired girl did have money or at least knew how to extract expensive trinkets from her men. "Well, Mr. Landry, you've given me and my daughter trouble for the last time," Robert thought, waving to Seamus from his private office while pouring himself a few more fingers of whiskey. "Oh, I bet you don't have a fabric-coated hanger," Sydney said as she walked into his dimly lit apartment. "And this dress is made of cashmere." "Of course," Jeff agreed, picking up the piece of fabric. Jelly and Belly had given Jeff Christmas sweaters, one for when he was in the mood for an ugly Christmas sweater, and the other was dark red with a large white snowflake on the front. Both came with fabric-coated hangers, and Jeff decided it would be better to fold the sweaters and put them in the bottom drawer of his tall chest of drawers. He hung Sydney's dress in the closet furthest from the bedroom door. Looking at several items hanging in the closet, Jeff decided that some of Sydney's items would fit well in the closet quickly. While she was still in the bathroom, Jeff pulled things out of the small closet and moved them into the large closet. "I can put away my boxes of t-shirts. This will give her a drawer for her panties and bras," Jeff said, then hurried to take off his shoes. When he heard the toilet flush, Jeff turned on the desk lamp and turned off the bright overhead light. The bathroom door opened as Jeff tried to unbutton his shirt, being careful not to rip the buttons. "Did you miss me? Every minute you're gone. Am I not an old fool?" Jeff asked, hugging her. When they broke the kiss, Jeff replied, "And you are my woman, you are my love." After a quick breakfast of eggs and toast, Sydney disappeared into the bathroom. Jeff drank his coffee while he waited and finished his third cup while waiting. He made the bed and paced back and forth, as the urge to pee became quite painful. "Okay, you need to hurry," Sydney said, opening the bathroom door. "Ah," Jeff groaned, pushing past her. When he came out of the bathroom, wiping his hands on his faded blue jeans, Sydney was getting dressed in fashionable faded jeans and a cute sweater that she had pulled out of a canvas bag with leather inserts that Jeff hadn't noticed the night before. She smiled as she pulled on another pair of 4-inch heels, and Jeff wondered how many pairs of shoes Sydney owned. And a hairdryer, Sydney added. Well, I'll bring mine and see what Miss Celeste has. You'll come to my house for Thanksgiving, right? Please say you will, Sydney said, getting up from the couch. What should I bring? Jeff asked, and Sydney rewarded him with a passionate kiss. Jelly, Belly, and Andrea, Sydney said. No, I meant dessert wine, Jeff suggested. Jeff, everything will already be there, Sydney smiled happily. Just bring yourself and your daughters. Okay, Jeff said, buttoning up the leather jacket he hadn't seen hanging on his coat rack. Sydney prepared to leave his apartment. Jeff was wearing only a long t-shirt, jeans, and a pair of leather loafers. When he walked outside to take her to the car, he was suddenly knocked down and pinned face-first against a brick wall by 2 men. Sydney screamed in surprise, and Jeff groaned. He felt blood flowing from a scratch on his forehead and wondered if his nose was broken. Let him go. I have a gun, Sydney ordered. You little, one of the men growled and hit Jeff in the right kidney. The roar was deafening. The man who hit Jeff in the kidney was thrown back, hitting his head on the pavement. A shot to the back of his leg blew out his kneecap. He would never be able to walk without limping. The blow to his head on the hard pavement knocked him out. The other man let go of Jeff and turned, reaching for his belt. He saw the barrel of Sydney's gun pointed straight at his face. This will be a headshot, Sydney warned. I see a bulletproof vest. This will be a headshot, the man began. I'll count to 2, Sydney warned, her hand unwavering as she pointed the gun at his head. Once, this will come back to you. The man snorted, following her order. No, officer, you will be sorry. You know what they do to police officers in prison, don't you? Sydney said, calling Captain Bentley on the direct line. Hello, Uncle Al, I have 2 of your best here. One will need an ambulance. Lady, this is going to be very bad for you, Officer Parnell said as he listened to Sydney talk on the phone beside him. Jeff stood on the sidewalk, still trying to catch his breath. His kidney hurt nonstop from the brutal blow from one of his attackers, and his face also hurt from being pressed against the brick wall. Hey, Parnell, Captain Al Bentley said, smiling broadly as the former police officer regained consciousness at the Salado County Hospital. I want a lawyer, said the handcuffed man. 9 hours later, just as umpire Robert Bussold had played a perfect 12 to 24-yard putt on the difficult dogleg 7th hole, a police cruiser pulled onto the golf course and slid to a stop less than a yard away from the startled man. Seamus McCullen, his father Angus McCullen, and Angus's business partner stood with their mouths open in shock. Robert Bussold, you're under arrest, Lieutenant David Poor said as he stepped out of the cruiser. Jeff's eyes were still black, and the scratch on his forehead still looked terrible when he and Jelly and Belly walked up to Poor's house. Andrea slept in her stroller while the trio gazed in wonder at the luxurious mansion. He's here, they're here, Jeff couldn't help but laugh when he heard Sydney's ecstatic scream from inside the huge building. Jeff, Mom, this is Jeff, Sydney introduced Jeff to Judge Shirley Howard. We met, but I'm sure she doesn't remember me. Jeff chuckled, reaching out to shake the elegantly dressed woman's hand. Oh, I remember you, Shirley drawled. I remember you quite well. That idiot Robert Bussold almost burned my ears yelling at me about that divorce. Yeah, sorry about that, Jeff said. And these are my daughters. And you turned my girl into Annie Oakley, Shirley continued, then sighed, looking at the stroller. And who is this little angel? Jelly, Belly, and this is their daughter Andrea. Jeff smiled proudly as Judge Shirley Howard sat down on the floor, speaking kindly to Andrea, who was slowly waking up. James Poor was considerably older than Judge Howard, but even though James was 79 years old, Jeff could see the intelligence in his gray eyes. He also had a strong handshake. Glad you could come, Jeff. Can I call you Jeff? James said, his voice strong. Our house would be pretty empty. My oldest, Jimmy, is at the Pentagon. We can't talk about what he's doing there, but he couldn't join us. David may appear, but he's the senior officer in the service, and God only knows where Samuel is. Shirley added, bringing Andrea to James. Look, isn't she cute? Well, look at this. Oh, my darling, look at that red hair. James spoke sweetly over the smiling baby. What a wonderful little girl you are. Daddy has a soft spot for red hair, Sydney whispered loudly, pointing at her mother's red hair. Judge Shirley passed the bar exam and began practicing as Shirley Howard, so even after meeting and marrying James Samuel Poor, she kept her maiden name. I'm known professionally as Judge Shirley Howard, she smiled, but everywhere else I'm known as Shirley Poor, the luckiest woman in all of New Jersey. James declared, his gray eyes sparkling. How those eyes haven't turned brown yet is a mystery to me, Shirley grinned, shaking her head. During Thanksgiving break, more and more of Sydney's clothes and other belongings found their way from her house to Jeff's apartment. On the third morning, when Jeff woke up, he discovered one hole in Sydney's perfect facade. Sydney would have trouble boiling water, even scrambled eggs were beyond her capabilities. Well, when can I learn? Sydney laughed an embarrassed laugh. Not that canola was going to teach me. Back at work the Monday after Thanksgiving, Jeff was dragged into Patrick's office. Patrick waved a stack of papers at Jeff. What the hell, Landry? Tired of being a half-baked repairman? You think you're a salesman now? Patrick accused. What are you talking about? Jeff asked. I'm your best. Somehow, we just received an invoice from J.S. Poor Investment Group, including all of its rental properties. And James Poor only does commercial rentals, so we're talking about equipment, not nifty little washers, dryers, and refrigerators. Hey, can you refrigerate? Patrick exclaimed enthusiastically, waving the stack of papers again. No, I cannot. But what does this have to do with me? Jeff asked. Come on, like you don't know who James Poor is, Patrick chuckled. Well, yes, I know, Jeff agreed. Oh, and by the way, well done for putting that idiot Judge Bussold behind bars, Patrick continued, sitting back down at his desk. Okay, no more trouble from the Fed heads, Patrick said, then looked at Jeff. Christmas Day was Monday, and Jeff made an unscheduled stop at the J.S. Poor building. The well-preserved executive assistant prevented Jeff from leaving her desk. She typed slowly and methodically, then asked Jeff to sit down on the soft leather couch while she continued to type. Finally, she picked up her phone and muttered a few words quietly. Jeff almost laughed when the executive assistant's indifferent blue eyes suddenly flew open, and her posture straightened. She muttered something else and then put the phone down on the cradle. I'm so sorry, Mr. Landry. He said to go straight, the woman said, getting to her feet and heading towards the large wooden door behind her desk. Would you like some coffee, Mr. Landry? Tea? Water? Coffee, 2 creamers, no sugar? Jeff grinned as he walked past her into James Poor's large office. Let me guess, Frida made you twirl your thumbs, James laughed, walking around the table to shake Jeff's hand. Yes, sir. Almost, Jeff agreed, shaking James's hand firmly. Don't worry, she'll offer to spin them for you next time you come, James smiled, sitting down at the front of the table. So, what brings you to this corner of the forest? The coffee was as good as any Jeff had drunk since he moved from Negard to Commonstead. Nothing could compare to the rich coffee his grandmother made in her old, worn cast-iron coffee pot. Jeff's mother used a French press, and it was almost as good as Mare's coffee. The French press, I would like to try it, James admitted. But Jeff, did you really come here to talk about coffee? No, sir, Jeff smiled and got to the point of his visit. Even though she was a Baptist, a non-practicing Baptist, Sydney accompanied Jeff, Jelly, Belly, and Andrea to midnight mass at St. John the Baptist Catholic Church on Christmas Eve. She admired the holiday and sang along with the children's choir. Jeff smiled as he discovered yet another flaw in his gorgeous girlfriend. Sydney couldn't carry a tune in a bucket, but she smiled happily while she sang. As Jelly and Belly carried Andrea and the diaper bag and strolled up to the 3rd floor of their apartment, Jeff walked Sydney to her car. She was driving home to wake up on Christmas morning at home. See you at lunch, Sydney reminded Jeff as she got into the car. In the morning, the only cloud on the clear, cold Christmas morning was a sad voicemail from Donna from her new phone number. Belly told Jeff that there was a new executive assistant sitting in front of Mrs. Hollister's desk at the bank on the first floor. She didn't know what happened to Donna. One morning, she was there, sitting at the table. Donna even smiled and waved at Belly when she walked into the bank to deposit her paycheck. The next time Belly walked through the bank lobby, there was no one at the table, and a few days later, a new face appeared. Donna was able to say Merry Christmas 3 times before she burst into sobs. Jeff deleted the remaining 3 minutes and 14 seconds of the voicemail without listening to it. He then blocked the new phone number. Yes, Donna. Merry Christmas, Jeff thought, pushing aside Sydney's creams, lotions, and hair clips to find his can of shaving foam hidden under the clutter Sydney had left. Sydney had left all her gifts for Jelly, Belly, and Andrea in the trunk of her car when she went home at 1:48 in the morning. Jeff may have looked dejected when he told Jelly and Belly that he had no gifts for them, but he had several gifts for Andrea, including some very cute outfits. Jelly dressed Andrea in a festive Christmas sweater and pulled her pants over her puffy diaper. The family then descended the stairs. Jeff kept a close eye on his surroundings, mindful of the recent attack. Shirley and James went a little overboard with the gifts for Andrea. Lt. David Poor stroked his wife's belly and asked if Shirley and James also planned to spoil little Sarah when she was born. Maybe, James joked. Oh, I'm sure we can figure something out, Shirley said, and David and his wife Elizabeth smiled widely. That's it, James said when the last gift was opened. Thank you for my new coat, said Belly. Yes, they are beautiful, Jelly agreed, still fiddling with the buttons and running her hands over the soft faux fur lining of her knee-length coat. And thanks for my French press, James said to Jeff. Look, just look. He'll try it once, decide it's too much trouble, and surely Consuelo will appreciate this. I'm sure, David suggested. Yes, James sighed, looking at the 7 boxes still under the tree. The packages were labeled with Samuel's name, written in his mother's loving hand. Jeff knew there was a story behind these brightly wrapped gifts but didn't feel it was his duty to ask. Maybe he'll come, Shirley tried to suggest. Maybe, Elizabeth agreed, holding her mother-in-law's hand. If I may, Jeff said after a long pause of silence. Yes? Shirley asked, looking at the floor. Sydney, Jeff began, trying to pull the stubborn box out of his wool trouser pocket. Oh my God! Sydney exclaimed, kissing Jeff. Wait a minute. James smiled. He hasn't even asked anything yet. How can you know what he's going to say? Because I asked Santa Claus for it, Sydney laughed, trying to help Jeff remove the stubborn box from his recalcitrant pants pocket. Sydney, will you marry me? Jeff began again when he finally managed to pull out the box. I already said yes, honey, Sydney said, kissing him again. Damn, this is a beautiful ring, David approved, seeing the white gold ring with 2 small diamonds on either side of a large diamond. Oh, Sydney, it's beautiful, Elizabeth admired. Because you asked Santa Claus, James grinned, looking at his 22-year-old daughter. Yes, after all these years, you're not going to tell me that Santa Claus doesn't exist, are you? Sydney said, wiping away happy tears. No, probably not. James agreed, turning his head. He saw Shirley looking at the gifts left under the tree with a sigh. He stood up. Well, that deserves a toast, I guess, James said. Shirley, is there any eggnog left? Of course there is. Who buys a gallon of this stuff every year? Shirley replied, also standing up. And every year. Shoo, woman, James smiled playful. The wedding took place in May on a beautiful Saturday. Speaking as Jeff's witness, Patrick Turner said Sydney had done very well for a blind woman. Jeff looked away from the back of the church and looked at Patrick. And she's not blind, Jeff said as the music started and Sydney, holding her father's hand, stepped down the aisle. Wait, you mean she sees and still agreed to marry you? Patrick asked, incredulous. You're such a huge idiot, Jeff laughed. She has a sister. I don't care if they're crazy. Damn, crazy is good. Crazy is good, Patrick said. A couple of cousins, Jeff nodded his head toward where Captain Al Bentley and his wife Francine Bentley, formerly Francine Howard, sat with their 5 daughters. Of course their dad is a cop, so you're going to have to really clean up your act. The tall one is quite cute, Patrick noted. Having big breasts doesn't make any difference, huh? Jeff asked. 2 months after Sydney and Jeff's wedding, Sydney, Shirley, Aunt Francine, and her 3 cousins, as well as Jelly and Belly, were enjoying lunch at the Marble Country Club. Jeff, James, Uncle Al, and David rode around in golf carts, hitting little white balls. Andrea was with the men. She refused to move from Pop's side. This crab salad is delicious, Sydney admired, swallowing a bite. Sydney, I turned 2 months old yesterday, Shirley said. I know, Sydney exclaimed joyfully. Can you believe it? No, I really can't believe you've got this little belly in just 2 months, Shirley said, looking intently at her daughter. Oops, Sydney laughed guiltily. Well, how far along are you? Asked Cousin Debbie. About 4 months, Sydney admitted. We think he or she will be a Christmas baby. Suddenly, there was a roar. Jelly, Belly, and Sydney turned around to see their waitress looking at them with horror on her face. Jelly, the emaciated woman asked. And so we come to the end of this complex story, where every decision, every action had its consequences. There are no black and white moments in life, there are only shades that hide our true motives. Evaluating everything that has happened, we can say one thing: the past does not let us go for nothing, but it is our decisions today that determine what our tomorrow will be like. And remember, the truth will always find a way to come out, even if we prefer to stay in the shadows. Thanks for watching. Write in the comments what you think of this video, give it a like and see you soon.